The galaxy was old. Stars had burned, died, and been born again long before the first human ever struck fire on Earth. Civilizations rose and vanished in silence, and in the far reaches of this endless dark, the Galactic Empire ruled. It stretched across thousands of systems, millions of worlds, and countless species. To its people, fear was a weapon, and obedience was survival. Those who bent the knee lived. Those who resisted disappeared. The Empire had no rivals, no challengers, and no enemies left to fear. Or so they believed. The day humans appeared, everything began to change. It started with a mistake. A small exploration ship, old and worn, drifted into restricted space. Its name was Odyssey, a vessel not built for war, only for travel and study. The humans on board had no plan to cross into the heart of the Empire. They had been charting unknown systems, searching for habitable planets and testing the limits of their fragile engines. But space is wide and mistakes in the void are costly. A wrong calculation sent them into the one place no outsider ever dared to enter. Within moments they were seen. Alarms spread across the sector. Imperial patrol fleets closed in. Great warships, each the size of a city, moved to surround the fragile human vessel. Their weapons glowed sharp and ready. Orders were clear: capture the trespassers. The humans did not resist. Their small ship was swallowed by the giant hangar of an Imperial dreadnought. The soldiers of the Empire expected fear. They expected cries, panic, begging for mercy. For centuries, every weaker species had trembled at the sight of the Empire's soldiers, but as the humans stepped out, nothing of the sort happened. The first man who walked into the chamber stood tall, his boots echoing on the steel floor. He was not armored like the soldiers. He was not armed like the warriors. His uniform was simple, plain, almost unimpressive. Yet his eyes were steady, sharp, calm in a way that unsettled those who watched. Behind him came his crew, silent, unshaken, their faces unreadable. The commander of the fleet leaned forward from his throne of iron. He expected trembling voices. Instead, the human captain spoke first. "We did not come here to kneel," he said. His voice was not loud, but it carried across the hall like a blade through silence. The aliens froze. No one had ever dared to speak like that inside the Empire's halls. Soldiers shifted uneasily. Whispers spread like fire in dry grass. What are these creatures? Do they not know where they stand? The commander laughed, but his voice did not sound certain. You stand before the Empire. Do you not fear death? The human captain's eyes narrowed. His face carried no smile, no fear, only truth. Death has walked beside us since the first day we stood on Earth, he said. If you want war, then make sure your gods are ready to pick up the pieces. The hall went silent. For the first time in centuries, soldiers of the Empire felt something they did not recognize. It was not anger. It was not pride. It was fear. They looked at the humans again, but now their shapes seemed different. Fragile, yes. Small, yes. But unbroken. They carried no weapons, but their silence was heavier than any blade. Their calm was sharper than any threat. The commander shifted uneasily in his throne. He searched their faces for weakness. He found none. The humans did not bow. They did not tremble. They only stood there, like stones in a storm, like fire hidden beneath ash. And in that moment, the Empire realized something it had forgotten. Power is not always measured in fleets and armies. Sometimes it hides in the eyes of those who do not fear. Far above, the dreadnought sensors whispered warnings. The human ship Odyssey, though trapped in the hangar, was sending out signals. Not calls for help, not desperate pleas. Just a simple message repeating again and again into the black of space. We are here. The Empire's leaders would later call this moment the first crack in their endless wall of control. But to the soldiers who stood in that chamber, it was something much simpler, something colder. It was the first time they realized that the humans were not prey. They were something far more dangerous. The humans were taken deeper into the Empire's capital. Their ship was locked away and their crew marched through halls built to intimidate. The walls were tall, carved with the history of conquests. Each image showed battles where alien nations had knelt before the Empire. Slaves, soldiers, kings, none had resisted. To walk inside these halls was meant to break the spirit before the council even spoke. But the humans walked as if the walls were empty. They looked at the carvings, but their eyes showed no awe, no fear, not even respect. They moved like people used to walking through ruins, not palaces. This unsettled the guards. The guards tightened their grips on their weapons, not because of orders, but because of unease. Finally, they reached the great council chamber. It was a room the size of a stadium, filled with tiered seats where hundreds of alien leaders waited. Their bodies glimmered with jewels, armor, and strange features from different worlds. At the center, a raised platform stood beneath a blazing symbol of the Empire. This was where trials began. This was where outsiders were judged. The humans were pushed forward and the crowd stirred with whispers. Some aliens laughed openly, mocking their small size and simple uniforms. Others leaned forward curious. No outsider had stood here in centuries. The last who did had begged for mercy, and even then, mercy had not been given. The Speaker of the Council, an ancient alien with silver scales and burning eyes, rose. His voice echoed like thunder. You stand accused of trespassing upon Imperial ground. Your presence is a violation. By law, you are subjects of trial. You will be tested. You will be judged. You will be broken. The humans did not flinch. The captain simply nodded once as though he had been expecting these words. His crew stood behind him, their silence louder than any defense. This reaction confused the council. Normally, creatures pleaded, argued, or promised tribute. These humans gave nothing. Their stillness was like a mirror, showing the Empire its own hunger for control. And for the first time, the reflection looked fragile. To hide their discomfort, the council ordered the first test. It would be simple, they said. A measure of survival. The humans would be dropped upon a hostile world. No weapons. No supplies. Only their strength. The alien crowd cheered, already tasting the humiliation of these strangers. The humans did not protest. They only asked one question. How long do we stay? The captain said. The Speaker of the Council narrowed his eyes. Until you die, of course. The captain almost smiled. Almost. The next day they were thrown from orbit onto a world known as Zarketh. The planet was a nightmare of storms and predators. Its air was thin, its nights filled with beasts that shredded anything weaker than steel. Even the Empire's soldiers only trained there with heavy equipment. To walk unarmed on Zarketh was a death sentence. The humans landed with nothing but their clothes and their will. For the first few hours, the council watched through hidden drones, eager to see the humans scream. But no screams came. Instead, the humans studied the land. They tore vines to make ropes. They broke stones to form sharp blades. They found high ground and built a fire, its smoke a signal to everything around. We are not prey, we are hunters. Night fell, and the beasts came. Eyes glowed in the dark, circling, waiting for fear. But the humans did not huddle or run. They formed a circle, weapons in hand, and when the first creature lunged, they moved together like a single body. Every strike was sharp, every motion steady. No wasted panic, no wasted fear. The alien council, watching from orbit, went silent. They expected chaos. They saw coordination. They expected weakness. They saw resilience. By the second day, the humans had turned predators into food, bones into tools, and fear into fire. By the third, they no longer looked like outsiders in a hostile land. They looked like the land had always belonged to them. One drone recorded a chilling moment. A massive beast, larger than a tank, charged into their camp. Any other species would have fled. The humans did not move. Their captain stepped forward, his crude spear aimed at the monster. The others spread wide, surrounding the beast. They moved with calm precision, not bravery born of ignorance, but bravery born of experience. The beast roared. The humans did not. When it finally fell, the captain simply said, "We eat tonight." The council chamber erupted in confusion. For the first time in memory, the trial did not humiliate, it unsettled. The Empire had tried to break these strangers. Instead, it was their own certainty that began to crack. One council member whispered, almost afraid to be heard, "What kind of people fight like this? What kind of people survive like this?" The answer spread like fire, though none dared speak it aloud. Humans. The humans were brought back from the death world after a week. Not only alive, but stronger, sharper, their eyes carrying something the council could not explain. They were expected to crawl back broken, begging for water, food, or mercy. Instead, they walked into the chamber with steady steps, their faces calm, their bodies carrying scars like medals. The Empire's leaders sat in silence, their arrogance now mixed with unease. The survival trial had been meant to end quickly, a spectacle of weakness. But the humans had turned the spectacle into a warning, so the council decided to change tactics. If survival did not break them, then combat would. On the following day, the humans were taken to the Arena of Dominion. This was no ordinary arena. It was the largest structure of its kind, designed to remind the galaxy who ruled it. Thousands of alien citizens filled the seats, their voices rising in a roar that shook the walls. They had come to see the strangers destroyed. At the center of the arena stood cages. Inside them were creatures bred for war, monsters that no army had ever fully tamed. Their bodies were armored in scales, their teeth sharper than steel. For generations, these beasts had been used to train the Empire's soldiers, crushing those too weak to fight. The crowd waited eagerly for the slaughter. The gates opened and the humans were led inside. No weapons, no armor, just their hands and their courage. Around them, the alien crowd screamed for blood. The first beast was released. It charged across the sand, its roar splitting the air. Most creatures would have frozen in terror. The humans did not. They moved. Fast. One soldier dropped low, grabbing sand in his fist, throwing it into the creature's eyes. Another leapt onto its back, wrapping arms around its neck, holding tight as it thrashed. The captain moved with precision, striking its jaw with a force that cracked bone. The crowd gasped as the beast fell, its body shuddering, its blood staining the sand. The silence that followed was heavier than any roar. The second beast was released, then a third. The humans fought each one with brutal skill, not with wild rage but with cold strategy. They used their size, their speed, their coordination. Each time a beast fell, the crowd's cheers turned into whispers, then into unease. The spectacle had shifted. What was meant to humiliate was turning into revelation. The council exchanged nervous glances. They had seen many species fight. None fought like this. None looked into death's eyes without flinching. When the final beast, a towering monster with 6 arms and claws the length of swords, was released, the council expected the end. But the humans faced it with the same calm as before. The captain stood at the front, his voice steady. "Hold your ground," the monster charged. The sand shook. Its claws sliced through the air, and the humans moved together like hunters who had done this before. One cut its legs, another blinded it with sand, while the captain drove a sharpened bone into its throat. The creature collapsed, its death echoing louder than the cheers of the crowd. The arena fell silent. For the first time in its history, the people of the Empire felt something they had not felt in centuries. They felt fear for those inside the arena, not for the beasts, but for the humans who killed them. The council was forced to speak. "You fight with no weapons, no training in our ways. How do you stand against our beasts?" The captain looked up, his face calm, his voice heavy with truth. "We have always fought monsters," he said. "On our own world, they were not beasts of flesh, but beasts of war, famine, and fire. We survived them all. Your trials are nothing new to us. They are reminders of who we already are." A murmur spread through the chamber. The words struck harder than any weapon. These creatures from a forgotten corner of the galaxy were not afraid, because they had already lived in a world that forged them in fire. As the humans were led away, one alien soldier whispered to another, "They are not supposed to be here. They are not supposed to exist like this, but they did." And the Empire had no idea what to do with them. The council chamber was no longer filled with mocking laughter. The arena had changed everything. What was meant to expose weakness had instead revealed strength that none of them could explain. The humans had faced monsters without weapons, without fear, and without hesitation. The question now whispered in every corner of the Empire was simple. What are they hiding? To find answers, the council ordered a new trial. This one would not be about beasts or survival. It would be about truth. They demanded the humans reveal their history. They wanted to understand what kind of world had created them. The humans stood in the center of the chamber once more, surrounded by the burning symbol of the Empire. The alien speaker, his voice sharp, leaned forward. "You do not fear our soldiers. You do not fear our monsters. Tell us, what made you like this?" For the first time, the human captain did not stay silent. His voice carried across the vast hall, calm and cold. "You believe strength is born from power, from ruling, from crushing those weaker than you. But you do not understand. Strength is born from suffering." The crowd shifted uneasily. "On Earth," the captain continued, "we fought each other long before we looked to the stars. We faced wars that burned nations. We faced plagues that killed millions. We faced hunger, storms, disasters that erased whole cities. We buried our dead and then we kept walking. Fear was always beside us. But instead of running, we made it our shadow. That is what shaped us. Images appeared on the great screens above, taken from the humans' own records. The council had demanded access, and now they projected the fragments. Burning cities, soldiers in trenches, storms tearing across lands, families rebuilding from ashes. The alien crowd watched in silence as they saw a world that seemed more hostile than any planet in the Empire. One alien counselor whispered, "They survived this, without an Empire to protect them?" The human captain nodded. "Your trials remind us of home. That is why we do not fear them. We have already lived them." The word struck harder than any battle. The silence that followed was heavy. For centuries, the Empire had believed fear controlled the galaxy. But here was a species that had built itself inside fear, had carried it for thousands of years, and had turned it into something else. The Council tried to twist the truth, to frame it as weakness. "You admit then that you are shaped by pain, that you are broken." The human captain's eyes narrowed. "Broken things shatter," he said. "We bend, we bleed, but we do not break. That is why you should be afraid." The chamber went cold. The guards standing near the humans tightened their grips on their weapons, though their hands trembled. They had stood near the fiercest warriors of the Empire, but never had they felt such unease standing beside creatures who carried no weapons at all. Outside the chamber, whispers spread across the capital. Some alien citizens were fascinated, others were terrified. Rumors began to grow. Rumors that the humans were more than they appeared, that their history made them unstoppable, that they could not be ruled like others. The Empire was beginning to fracture, and it all started with a mistake. One small human ship drifting into their territory. That night, in the private halls of the Council, debates erupted. Some demanded the humans be executed at once, before their presence infected the Empire with doubt. Others warned that killing them would be worse, that it would turn them into legends, and legends were more dangerous than soldiers. But there was one fact they could not escape. For the first time in centuries, the Empire was not the one inspiring fear. The Empire was the one feeling it, and the humans had not even tried. The great council hall was filled once more. This time the air was heavier, charged with something none of the Empire's rulers had ever felt before. Fear had shifted its direction. For centuries it had flowed outward from the Empire, crushing worlds, silencing rebellions, controlling species. But now it lingered inside the chamber, pressing against the council itself. The humans stood in the center, unshaken. Their small ship, the Odyssey, remained locked under heavy guard, its every signal intercepted. Yet the crew did not look like prisoners. They looked like witnesses, standing in judgment over those who believed they ruled the galaxy. The council could not agree on what to do. Some voices thundered for extermination. Others warned against it, their tone edged with quiet dread. If humans were killed here, the memory of their defiance would spread like fire through the Empire. Already whispers had reached the outer systems. Already alien soldiers who had watched them in the arena spoke of them in hushed voices. The speaker of the council rose, his scaled face shining beneath the chamber lights. His voice was meant to sound powerful, but cracks of unease ran through it. "You are intruders. You have trespassed. You have defied every trial. Now the question remains, what do you seek? Do you want war with the Empire?" The hall waited. Thousands of eyes turned toward the human captain. His face was calm, his expression unreadable. He let the silence stretch until it weighed heavier than any roar. Then he spoke. "We came here by mistake." His words were steady, sharp. "We did not seek your empire. We did not plan to walk your halls. But now that we are here, we will not kneel. We will not crawl. We will stand." The words echoed across the chamber like a blade cutting through centuries of arrogance. The alien leaders shifted in their seats. Some hissed in anger, others sat frozen in silence. The guards' hands trembled on their weapons. The ordinary citizens who had been allowed to watch felt something they could not name. A pull, a spark, a crack in the stone walls of fear that had always surrounded them. The captain's voice grew colder. "You rule with fear, but fear is a chain and chains can break. We know because we have broken them before. We will break them again if needed." The silence that followed was unbearable. Even the lights above seemed dimmer, as though the chamber itself bent under the weight of the words. Finally, one counselor slammed his fist onto the table. His voice shook with rage. "You are nothing, a fragile species from a forgotten world. You dare to speak against the Empire. The human captain turned his eyes toward him. There was no anger in them, no hate, only something far colder. "You fear us already?" he said softly. "That is why you shout." The chamber went still again. The truth was undeniable. Across the galaxy, the Empire had always stood unchallenged. But now, before their very eyes, a handful of humans had turned trials into victories, humiliation into warning, and fear into silence. The council dismissed the humans back to their guarded chambers, but the damage was done. That night across the capital, voices rose in quiet rebellion. Soldiers whispered that they had seen something greater than the Empire's beasts. Citizens asked questions they had never dared ask before. Leaders looked into the dark and wondered if the chain of fear had already begun to crack. In their chamber, the humans prepared in silence. Their ship